All right. It says live. It's weird. I could hear myself for a second, but it went away. Okay. I am going to confirm that this is live on our YouTube channel, first and foremost. This is a test stream, so I'm not trying to sound professional. I'm just trying to make sure that this shish is working. View channel. Still don't see anything. Boom, 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 ba-dum, bum, ba. All right, let me see. Maybe it takes a little bit. I don't think it would take that long. Oh, okay, there it is. Now I'm seeing us.
I'm trying to look right now too.
It did take a little bit to pop up, so I'll have to go back and see how much it recorded. Okay, so the moment I clicked live, it was indeed live.
The more you know.
So I will just be able to edit this out from the audio. That won't be hard, but all right. So are you ready to officially start up? Hold on. Let me text Boo. We're live. There we go. She is now written into the histories of this podcast.
Welcome.
Let's just mess around here. Let's do this. Boom. We did it. We did it live. Things exist. Things are going back to this. We are smooth. KP's hair is awesome. Kind of like Goku just like working his way up to Super Saiyan status.
Super Saiyan.
I like it. All right. Did you see the trailer to Street Fighter?
Yeah, for sure.
It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
I'm glad they didn't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, no? It's not supposed to be.
Okay, so we shall stop delaying, and I will start. Let's do like a moment of silence so it's easy to see where it picks up. So. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Striking Gold, your 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Network. My name is Rob Lowder, occasionally credentialed media covering the San Francisco 49ers. For all of you guys joining me, and this is going to be an interesting podcast because right now, and those of you that are listening to this podcast, which what should be early Wednesday morning, hopefully that's when you're listening to it, an early riser, you will be the first to hear that KP and I have started a Striking Gold YouTube channel. And right now we are testing the stream. We haven't promoted it. We haven't put it out into social media. We have like 3 subscribers and one of them is me and the other one is my wife. So like we really only have one. Shout out to my buddy Kenny, who's a Dallas fan, which it's fine. He'll figure it out. But so we're on YouTube right now and nobody knows that because we haven't told anybody, but we wanted to try it out. And I'm going to take this audio and I'm going to turn it into the podcast. And that might be, the last podcast we do where it's not like, hey, we're live on YouTube, then everybody's going to know about it from here on out. So if you're listening to this right now, you're getting a very small preview into the fact that there is now a Striking Gold YouTube channel. And it's finding it is maybe for the time being going to be a little bit tricky. You've got to search on YouTube at the Striking Gold podcast. Don't get it confused with the one Eric Crocker created like 5 years ago when he and I were on Striking Gold. I tried to get him to delete it. He's still trying. He doesn't remember any of his login information and he can't figure it out. Bless his heart. And so, yeah, at the Striking Gold podcast, it won't have a ton of subscribers. I don't know how many by the time you hear this, but it exists now and we will be on there now. And our very first official stream will be on draft day, on draft night, reacting to the 49ers pick live. So we hope to have you there. But anyways, I haven't even given him time to speak. KP, you just got home from quite the trip. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Just in time for the draft, actually. And I think it's going to work out well. So kind of was hands off from the draft this year. I didn't really share a lot of my thoughts on social media like I have in years past, but still have some takes to fire off. I'm going to just fire them off on draft day. And ideally, none of the colds that we did a couple weeks ago, a week ago, however long ago that was, or who we end up talking about live on Thursday. So if you do not have plans Thursday night, hang out with us. Come kick it with us. And we are going to talk about what the 49ers were thinking, good or bad.
Yeah, it's going to be and that's kind of the beauty of having pick 27 is you can't really like get too comfortable with what you think's going to happen. Even when the 49ers picked 11th, that was still a little weird because you weren't quite sure who was going to be there. But 27th, I mean, it's anybody's guess as to who's going to be on the board and where the 49ers are going to want to go. Now that you say that, though, I kind of feel like we were planning on firing the stream up just a little bit before the Eagles pick at like 23. But now that KP I know has like draft takes in the holster, I feel like we should fire it up earlier so you can just shit talk everybody else's picks.
I love one of my favorite annual activities of the draft. Bad player, overdraft, reach, Jim.
So it's gonna be something, man. So again, if you don't already have plans, I mean, even if you do have plans,
if you have plans, change those because you're gonna have more fun with us.
Come hang out. So, I'm excited about the future of the podcast because the one thing we haven't had is, the chance for you guys to see our ugly faces while we're recording. But two, you guys can interact with us live while we're recording, and we can, if we feel like a question is worth interjecting into the conversation, we can do that at any point. So I'm excited about all of that. I am. But today is also in the same vein about you guys. We have opened up the floor for your draft takes, your draft questions, your whatever you had draft related. And we're going to get into that. So we're doing a Q&A and that'll lead the conversation. And then, like I said, when we're done with this, the next time we will see you will be live on draft night while the clock is ticking. And the clock is always ticking. Good old Berman at the beginning of draft day.
Tick.
Funny story. And we've watched it a lot, not a ton, but my son may have the same special ability that I have to like immediately recognize things from movies. And he knows when I turn on draft day, just by the first little, what do you call those? In the beginning, it shows the companies that helped make it.
So not the credits.
No. Like even before that, when it's showing I don't even know what those are called.
I don't know. I've never heard
like
that.
New Line Cinema or stuff.
Sure.
He knows just from the first one. He'll go draft day.
I love that.
And I can't quite tell if he's saying draft day or giraffe day.
Both.
Which would be giraffe day would be way better. That's a much better title. But all right, let's get it started here. Let's get the Q&A, the 49ers Q&A started. We're starting off with Lowbridge, a regular from Takeaway Time. Excuse me. Lowbridge says, I don't like drafting for need. In your opinion, what players doesn't matter what round? Oh, okay. What players doesn't matter what round? Do you feel like this guy should be a 49er? I love Sonny Styles. Obviously, that's a bit unrealistic, but I'd like to see some players that everyone thinks meet the Niners criteria. Okay, so he's basically like, what are our guys? I mean, I suppose we should keep it realistic. So it's,
right.
But
if Jeremiah Love.
I know. I'm hoping the 49ers land Caleb Downs, man. I really am. KP, do you have is there a name that pops up into your head as being like your guy? Who is it?
Sure. No, I think, man, I could name one at every position, honestly, like just going down the line. So if I'm looking at running backs, like Mike Washington is a very popular player just because he's big and fast, but I don't think he can pass protect. I think if I were to narrow it down to a pair of running backs, I would go Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson. Like those are guys on day 3 in the 4th round who realistically one of those two should be available. I guess cross your fingers, hopefully, when the 49ers are on the clock. Wide receiver, Deshaun Stribling, another day 3, maybe day 2 guy. Like that is a dude to me. That is unequivocally my favorite player to watch in the draft. Does he end up being a quality starter? I don't know, but I feel like he fits the style of an NFL type of player. We'll keep going. Miami's Markel Bell. Where does he go? Who knows? If he's available at 58, knowing that they do not have a 3rd rounder, he's projected to go 97. I would feel comfortable taking him at 58. That sounds like a crazy reach, but if you're looking at the way big boards stack, if you're looking at he's 21, he's a ginormous human being. He's going to help the 49ers a ton. Does he start right away? I don't know. Do they have that luxury? Probably not. But you're thinking long term, and that is not something that this team has done. So you get a 21-year-old left tackle with enormous upside. He is so good to me. I think he has more value than a lot of the other guys listed ahead of him. So like that would be a guy if we're doing offensive line. So like that's I'm thinking in terms of that where hey, like these day 2, day 3 prospects that they're getting some late buzz, they're getting some late just hype. But I think those are the kind of players that I would really like to see the 49ers draft because I think 3-4 years down the line, you're looking at either a quality starter or in Markel Bell's case, like this dude might be a big time extension candidate. So, I mean, I could keep going, but what about you? Are there any names off the top of your head? Or I know I like the question, the way that it was phrased, because easily we could just go edge, wide receiver, like the same positions that we've been talking about this entire time. But my mind, again, like went to cornerback, Keith Abney. Like I would love to see the 49ers draft a player like that, an instinctive, fast. Yes, he's undersized, and that might cause him to fall. He's a really good football player. And I like him, again, more than a lot of these other guys that are listed ahead of him. So where are you at, Rob?
Oh, man. We've talked about some of them. Trying to think if I could work my way down the draft board. I'm just looking at Dane Brugler's The Beast. I mean, the highest one that I'm kind of the most excited about, like the idea of them drafting, is one of your favorites in Cassius Hell. He's just fun to watch play, and I don't know how effective he's going to be at a pro, but he's just what the doctor ordered in terms of like a complimentary piece. And the way he wins when he wins, it's just really awesome to see. What's the pass rusher out of the Denver? The real fast guy. Just
Benito?
got paid recently. What's that?
Are you talking about Benito?
Yeah, it kind of. Now I would think most people would probably agree that Benito is a better prospect than Cassius Howell is, but the way he wins, like you watch Benito play, and it's fun to watch him win. Like when he wins with speed, and he just flies around the edge. And Cassius Howell does the same thing. Chris Bell, and that's thanks to you, quickly became one of my guys, and he's a guy that the 49ers might be able to get at 58. I don't think so. I think Chris Bell is probably going to go somewhere between like 30 and 45.
That does feel like wishful thinking, and that is another problem. So even like a Cassius Howell, and maybe that's why we're getting so much trade down talk, is because a lot of the players who they are being linked to are more 35 to 45 type of players, as opposed to these guys are top 25 prospects, and you'll be lucky if they fall.
Right. So Chris Bell it's just the way he plays football, man. When you watch Chris Bell play, tape, highlights, doesn't matter. He just feels like the game's a little bit different for him. He's a powerful guy, 6'1", 6'2", 225, and then again, like the Chris Brazzles of the world are 6'5" and under 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And Chris Bell is 6'2", 220. Like that is a powerful kind of an A.J. Brown type of frame. He doesn't necessarily play football like A.J. Brown, but he just has that frame, that powerful frame. Do I have any other guys? Eli Heidenreich, I mentioned him a couple times, running back, somebody that they would probably, if they got him, they'd probably take him with like their last 4th round pick. Just an inexperienced, lesser used running back, and a more of kind of a wide receiver plugged into a running back's role. I would love to see him get a shot at taking some of the heat off Christian McCaffrey. I think he can do everything Christian McCaffrey does in the pass game. I'm not quite sure how good his pass protection is. And I'm really not sure how well he would be between the tackles. But in terms of in the pass game, I'm confident that he can do everything that Christian McCaffrey does. And I haven't really been able to say that about any running back prospect for quite some time. And even like when we were banging the drum for who was the free agent we were talking about, running back that's a good pass catcher from the Steelers.
Gainwell.
Yeah, and even him, he would be good in the pass game, but I would never be kind of convinced that he could do everything that Christian McCaffrey does. Whereas with Eli Heidenreich, I think he can do everything in the pass game that Christian McCaffrey does. He's already got these highlight catches that Christian McCaffrey was doing. Is there anybody else that I can plug in there? I really liked Jayshon Barham from Michigan. Matt Barrows showed me him as well. A little bit of a tweener. I think that the 49ers could get their hands on him like early in the fourth. Maybe if there's some type of trade down that unlocks a pick in there, but he's
I
kind
don't
of
think Raheem Morris is opposed to these tweener types, by the way. Like, I mean, he's shown that with the type of players that he's drafted. So I think you're going to be okay there.
well, and it's with the way defenses are starting to kind of like, and I think Raheem Morris did it a lot too, where he likes to walk down a linebacker and just have him be an extra pass rusher. Somebody like Jayshon Barham can be comfortable in both roles. Like he's athletic enough to kind of drop back into like a flat coverage if you need him to, or a hook curl type thing. But he's also he can threaten you along the edge. He's a decent pass rusher. He can do it. I think he's just kind of a cool hybrid athlete. So those are the guys that come to my mind as guys that I would be really excited to see the 49ers get. Did you have anything else you wanted to throw in there? You want to get to the next one?
I mean, sorry, I was muted. I don't want to talk over you. Honestly, like I've said Chris Bell every freaking time that we've gotten on here. AJ Brown wishes his career would turn out like Chris Bell.
About to be traded to the Patriots.
Right. Scoop. Not really. I mean, I like I don't know how to say his first name. Zaki Wheatley out of Penn State. He doesn't really get talked about much, but like that is my guy at that position is Wheatley out of Penn State. Abney, the cornerback from Arizona State, who I just mentioned. Do they take a linebacker? Like, will that be the case? Dre Greenlaw, D Winners might be out of here this time next year. We're talking about, hey, like, why didn't they take a linebacker? So maybe a linebacker is somebody they take. I don't.
We got know. I think we have a question or a draft thought that brings up the linebacker again.
Hello, segue.
Yeah, we're getting. You know what? Let me just go find it then.
Yeah,
we can do that. Yeah. Okay, too fresh. Another regular in the takeaway time realm. He said Jacob Rodriguez should be the first round pick. Kenyon Sadiq is intriguing, but scares me as a prospect. Emmanuel Pregnon will be an all-pro guard. So let's just start with the one you were just talking about. Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. Fringe first rounder, definitely like a second round prospect. Let me see where Dane Brugler has him. I don't necessarily want to be scrolling around when we're on the pod, but stud linebacker, very much so. What do you think about what if the 49ers shocked everybody and took a linebacker with their first pick, whether if it was 27 or whether it was trading back to like 34? How do you see that playing out? Would you think if it was like a misuse of resources? Dane Brugler has him as his 40th overall player. What would that just feel like to you?
I would go as far to say that would be a comical misuse of resources. So they have the best linebacker in the NFL and one of the most transcendent players at the position, and they got him in the third round. So like the way people talk about running backs, that's the way linebackers really are. So he tested so much better than I would have ever imagined. So I watched a lot of Texas Tech just during the season, and they were a very good defense. And I do believe taking very good players on very good collegiate defenses, and he like 4.57, 84 percentile, 38-inch vertical, which would have never assumed. One of his mock draft comparisons, actually two of them, players that we are familiar with. Quan Alexander is number one, and Eric Kendricks is the other one. So if he plays to the way that he timed, then maybe. But even then, I would be thinking like second round. If you're taking a linebacker in the first round, he better be like the one they took in 2017 on the field. I do think Rodriguez has like the instincts, right? He has a knack for being around the football. And if the 49ers idea is, hey, like we just need to shift and find dudes that can find a way to get their hands on passes, finds a way to get the hand on the ball and create turnovers, like he would be the one. It felt like every game he was either deflecting a pass that ended up in an interception or just causing a turnover. But I don't know. I really don't think he played to the speed that he tested at. I don't think he is that good of an athlete. Maybe he just spent the last couple of months training like one. But they have the QB on the defense, right? They already have that. So getting another one when if you just look at Greenlaw and you look at D Winters, they were able to give them starter production on at day 3. So I don't think that would make much sense at all from a team building perspective. John Lynch just said the other day, hey, we've said for 10 years how we are going to build this team, and that is not through linebackers. So I don't see it. I don't see how that would make sense from where they're, I know you don't want to only draft for needs, but of all the things you could do with your first round pick, that linebacker essentially has to be like a Pro Bowl, all pro type of player to warrant that kind of draft pick. And that's just a lot of pressure on Jacob Rodriguez. And could he be? Sure. He might turn out to be one of the better linebackers in the NFL, but with where the 49ers are right now, would not use, especially 27 on that player.
I think it's an interesting discussion. I think that my first reaction would be like, ugh, that's a little rich. That's a little rich for me. I sent you a text, by the way, about like seeing if you could line your webcam up with your face, but I don't know if you have any like. I said, can you line your camera up with your face, or does your daughter have a K-pop Demon Hunter poster in the background? Which I wouldn't blame you if she did. That is a very good movie. It sounds corny, but K-pop Demon Hunters is actually a really good movie. But anyways, I know it sucked me in, man. It's good, and the singing is tremendous. But anyways, so the 49ers surprise everybody. Take Jacob Rodriguez. The second, third order effects would be interesting. You know, you'd have somebody who, I'm assuming somebody like that, even despite his draft status, would probably start as the third linebacker. If Jacob Rodriguez is what the 49ers hoped he would be by taking him at that pick, then he's probably booting D Winters for the third linebacker spot. He's playing kind of like an Azeez Al-Shaair role out the get, if that's what defensive coordinator wants to do. The good part about it is we know D Winters tends to get injured, and if D Winters did get injured, and it's like, boom, here's your Jacob Rodriguez. And now you're looking at a tandem of Fred Warner and Jacob Rodriguez throughout the course of the season, which would be exciting to see. I'm still not like over the moon in terms of like what that would mean for a draft picks, you know, especially, and you shouldn't be drafting for need, but then, you know, that's one selection later that you're getting a wide receiver, you're getting a pass rusher, some of those premium positions, whereas linebacker isn't necessarily one of those. But again, if your goal is to win football games and find talent, and the 49ers love Jacob Rodriguez, who am I to argue? But the other part of that question that I want to talk about, Emmanuel Pregnon being an all-pro, it wouldn't surprise me. He plays the game in a really nasty way that you like to see from a guard. But the one I want to talk about is Kenyon Sadiq is an intriguing prospect, but scares me. What is that? Because I kind of feel that a little bit from watching him. Do you have any of that after watching any of Kenyon Sadiq?
Yeah, I'd be a little worried. I would be a little worried just because super athlete, like insane uber athlete who's going to get production just because he's going to be in positions where he can outrun most of the players he's guarding. Okay, how often is that going to work, though? Are we talking about a guy who he scores 5 touchdowns and then what, right? So if you just kind of watch Oregon's games, like you're left wondering, like, I want more. Like, I want to see more out of this player, this specific player. If I'm taking a tight end, much like linebacker, he has to be the man at everything. That's blocking, that's receiving down the field, that's screens underneath, that's running routes at the intermediate level. Again, tight end, they have the best, the top 2 tight ends, one of the top 2 tight ends in the past decade, and they found him where? Day 3. Is that like that's an outlier, of course. Like George Kittle tested like a crazy athlete, not even as good as Sadiq. So I understand like the link. I understand where they're coming from, but a lot like Jacob Rodriguez, where you might be able to get better value from the same position 2 rounds later. I think that's true at linebacker. I'd rather take Anthony Hill. I would rather take somebody like that in the 4th round or the 3rd round. Obviously, the 49ers don't have a 3rd round, but point stands where like I would take Eli Stowers in the 2nd round in a heartbeat. Like for whatever reason, people are sour on him, but I wouldn't take a tight end in the 2nd round. 27-58, just completely different in terms of production, or sorry, in terms of value at that position, in what world are you watching the 49ers last season? And I know George Kittle missed a ton of time, and you come away thinking, man, if they had another tight end, or if they had a tight end, and yes, he's a move tight end. Yes, he's like more of an eligible, but if he can't block, if the 49ers aren't confident in him blocking, what is the difference between him and Jake Tonjes? And yes, I know like the upside is there, but the proof's not in the pudding. So that's where I would be a little worried taking Sadiq. And again, I would say that would be another comical misuse of resources, taking a linebacker, taking a running back, taking a tight end anywhere in the first round. You're just asking for it.
Yeah, I like Kenyon Sadiq. I understand he has freak athlete qualities, but I just haven't necessarily seen as much freak part of his game that you would expect to see from a guy that plays like that. And to me, the other thing that kept throwing me off was, all right, everybody talks about the freaky qualities of Kenyon Sadiq. Why would he be available at 27? You know what I mean? It's if he gets all the way there, sure, draft slides happen, and know that it's not the definitive. Like, there's no way this guy's going to work out if he's sliding to 27. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that should ring alarm bells right there. If a guy that everybody can't
draft class too.
Right. And it's if he makes it all the way there, then then everybody else passed on. And did his teammates come to his birthday? I don't know. It's just a matter of if he found his way to 27, then obviously other teams thought something similar. And there's even little things when I watch Kenyon Sadiq, the way he catches the ball, sometimes it just doesn't quite seem clean. And that like throws off just a little tiny red flag. Like, even though he's catching it, he's not even double catching it. But if you can tell by the way it hits his hand, you're like, oh, I saw that. It's just a weird thing. And that sounds even weirder. But I understand that. I do get where Too Fresh is coming from when he says that Kenyon Sadiq is intriguing. Obviously a total freak. What would Kyle Shanahan do with this guy? But sometimes it just doesn't quite impress me in the way a guy with those numbers you would think to be blown away by.
Let me ask you this, as somebody who is familiar with just pass catchers in general. Do you think you can teach somebody to be better after the catch? Do you think you can teach somebody to be better off the line? And we're talking like at the lower level. So imagine these are the critiques of Sadiq where, hey, like he just needs to be better after the catch. Once the ball is in his hands, hey, he's facing press coverage, he needs to have a better release package. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's a smart player. But if those are the things I have to worry about, and assuming he's going to get better, but he's also like 241 pounds. So he's not like a big guy either. I think that's probably one of the other the big misconception. Wasn't Vernon Davis like really, really big? I'm blanking like what he made, but I feel like, yeah, Vernon Davis was 254. Sadiq is 241. Like that matters. So 254 running what Vernon Davis did it's just a little different beast, and it hits different, obviously, as well when you're talking about physicality and how that's going to play out. So I wonder, just would be a little leery, as you said, like, okay, all these teams in front of the 49ers who did not have the same offensive production efficiency as the 49ers, they just passed up on this dude. And maybe it's just because positional value, but at this day and age, with how tight ends and wide receivers, I don't want to say they're they're exchangeable, but they're interchangeable. But still, you should be able to get a lot out of a tight end if he is that size and can run like that. But if he's available, I would be asking a lot of questions. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Would the pick still excite me? Yeah, a little bit, because you'd be wondering what Kyle Shanahan saw in this guy and how he plans to use him.
There would be a lot of intrigue, no doubt.
But would I be like, there would be some trepidation. I would be like, but okay.
It would have to be a scenario where like tons of receivers are gone, right? And maybe not even that. Maybe they're ranking Sadiq as a big wide receiver, like let's say Denzel Boston's gone, and they rank Boston and Sadiq in the same range. Maybe that's the case. Like the pass rushers are gone, the offensive line are gone, and now, as opposed to reaching, you do take the best available player, and that is Sadiq. So I could see it playing out like that. But man, you better have a plan for him, because if not, are you going to take away who are you going to take away snaps from? You just drafted Ricky Pearsall. You just signed Christian Kirk. You just signed Mike Evans. You still have George Kittle. You still have Christian McCaffrey. A lot of mouths to feed.
Right. I agree. It'd be interesting. Golden Era asks, what player or players would you be disappointed to see the 49ers take at 27? And which punter are they drafting in round 4? Yeah.
Steer clear of those specialists.
And they've already brought one in, not for a workout, but they've already been talking to him. KP, lead us off, man. Which you can pick as many as you want, but 27.
Feel free to tune in to the last episode, and we kind of are a couple weeks ago. We went through a few different players at this. I actually don't think the players that I said are going to be available. I think they're all going to be selected before. I don't think Omar Cooper's going to pan out the way most do. I would say him, but I think he's going to be long gone. I think he's going to go in the 20s. The early 20s, if not late teens.
The 49ers picking the 20s, Kyle.
The same. I think a lot of these edge rushers are going to go too. I think the 49ers, this is a huge cop-out, but I really think the 49ers are going to be in a situation where the players they want are gone, and now you're in a situation where, hey, dang, I really don't want a guy that I have ranked 42nd at 27. I want to trade down, but nobody's answering the damn phone, so I can't move off this pick. So now I'm going to have to select who. Where am I going to go? So I would just advise the 49ers of zoning in on a need and reaching for the 6th best player at their position, as opposed to taking the best player, which a scenario might play out like that is Sadiq. So no specific names, but if you want to name names, I'm not a fan of how – actually, this week, Malachi Lawrence has been the flavor of the week for the 49ers because there's buzz about him going early, and I don't think that's a player you take in the first round.
Yeah, I think Malachi Lawrence has had like 2 shoulder surgeries. I know he's got. I mean, he's an exciting player. He's kind of has the speed of Cassius Howe with better measurables. But the one thing, and I was just talking to John Chapman about this when it came to Malachi Lawrence, I wouldn't be upset about the pick. It's a position of need, and he's gaining some steam. The value might line up, but if you look at mock draft databases profile of him, you click on his name, it shows where his draft stock has been over the months, and it's only increased since. I mean, I think it was John made a good point. He said it was mostly since the combine, but whenever somebody's draft stock just explodes after the football season, it always worries me because I feel like it's being inflated for the wrong reasons. Now, look, I think testing matters. I think all these measurements and all these pro days workouts matter, but I think that's such a small piece of the pie compared to just watching them play football. Like, I don't know. I think the watching them play football part should be 80 to 85% of the equation. And so when somebody's draft stock has exploded that much after all the football was done, that kind of concerns me. I'm sure there's plenty of examples of that where that's what am I trying to say? That goes against what I'm saying, but players.
I feel like there's a lot of merit to it at the same time, right? Like, why weren't we talking about this dude in December? Why weren't we talking about this dude during the season? And all of a sudden now he's viewed as a first rounder. Like, that should be a red flag.
Right. Yeah, it does get me. Not that big on Caleb Lamu, and he offensive tackle out of Utah, and he's probably the most popular player being mocked to the 49ers right now. It's just it kind of just comes down to just not being blown away watching him play myself. Not that I can evaluate offensive lineman tape very well, but I kept hearing the same thing from all these different draft profiles about Caleb Lamu, like needs more strength, needs more grit. And it's like that guy that needs more strength and needs more grit is going to bump down to play guard while Trent Williams is there. Like, you would want the opposite, especially from a guard. You'd want guys with less measurables, but more strength and more grit if you're having somebody play guard. So it just doesn't quite add up to me there as far as like the way, but I don't know. There's people that are smarter than me that know more. It's just that could probably explain it better. Caleb Lamu's a name. TJ Parker, pass rusher out of Clemson, just wasn't blown away watching him play. but he's got some decent draft stock. Dane Brugler's got him at 31. That's another name that I'm not huge on. That might be it for the most part. If we're talking 27, I think everybody else would have its own brand of. I'm fine with like the Caden Proctors. I'm fine with if they fall like that. Monroe Freeling makes his way all the way down there, which I doubt. I'm okay with Keldrick Falk. Doesn't quite have the production, but the dude's a young freak athlete, and maybe they can get the most out of him. Did any other names come up there for you?
No, I mean, I want to piggyback off the Lomu. So let me read the notes that I have from Lomu, and this is just one game. I have a couple games of notes on him, but first play pulls, but it's too high. Gets overextended, trying to defend spin on third down. Another pull, not much impact on contact. Next play pulls to the second level and gets caught up in the wash. Doesn't block anybody. Another one, overextended blocking down, doesn't latch on, is passive and never gets to the defensive end. Wide 9 crosses face on an inside counter, is late after hesitating. Like, there are some red flags, and this is against Texas Tech, so a good defense. But guess what he's going to run into at the NFL? Like, he's going to run into players who are going to probably give him trouble, whether that's from a physical standpoint, athletically, size, you name it. So he's going to run into all different types of body types, which I feel like you can find on the Texas Tech defensive line. So that is concerning. And I think when you hear everybody say, the strength is an issue, that is very real. So, yeah, man, I wonder where he's going to go. And that might be a scenario where Lomu, they don't like anybody else but Lomu. That feels like another very popular player to the 49ers.
Right.
Just doesn't seem like their style, though. I know he's tall, but I think 3 years from now, we will be asking, why in the world did Markel Bell get drafted behind guys like Caleb Lomu? And then, who's I'm blanking on some of the other names up top here, but I don't think the value is there for Lomu is where I'll leave it.
Yeah, it's just I'm if you're going to go offensive line, and it's somebody, I think Caden Proctor is going to be long gone off the draft board. I would much rather go with somebody like Maxi Honachor, somebody who is to me already the same caliber of player, but it's doing it in a better frame for the position and is doing it with less experience.
Yes.
So you can almost bet on him steadily improving to a point where he's probably the better player.
The fact that he's playing very well for a guy who has no clue what he's doing. Lomu's also young, but Ihanator just picked up playing football, and he's figuring out how to keep guys in front of him. Like, yes, there are things that he's going to have to work on, but that's an experience thing. With Lomu, like, how often do guys who come into the NFL with perceived strength issues improve on that? Like, you're not going to, more often than not, guys who come in with a lack of physicality don't end up turning into like flipping the switch, and all of a sudden now they're a pro. They learn how to play more with more grit. So that's the part that really worries me.
Right. And here's Dane's takeaway from Ihanator. Ihanator is still learning how to refine his talent on a more consistent basis, but his traits, athletic build, balance, quickness, play strength, it's kind of like the opposite of the other one. Caleb Lomu might have a lot of the technique, but he doesn't have the stuff that you just think. It's like somebody approaching me about a receiver and them saying, well, he's got rough hands and he doesn't run great routes, but he's got this, and this. So you've already lost me, man. So that's kind of what it feels like. That's the best I can kind of equate it to. JJ Locarius says the world will be healed when this man's glorious locks are flowing out the back of a beautiful golden helmet. And this would be a good time for me to share my screen. I don't know. I could give it a shot. This is the test stream. So let me see. We'll go to show. We'll do this. And then I'll hit this thing. And I know if you're listening to this as a podcast, you're not going to be able to see this. That's okay. Let's go to share screen and let's go to entire screen. And right here, this should be him right there. Boom. There's his golden locks right there. And that is, how do you say his name again?
Jennings Dunker. If you
Jennings
watch
Dunker, let's go find him on here.
You saw that time and time again.
Where's he at on the old did I already pass his name on here?
I can kind of fill in though. So I've watched a ton.
Go ahead.
I will always watch Iowa football. It's ingrained in my blood, unfortunately. But
why is that unfortunate?
I mean, I'm just because I'm with a bunch of Iowa fans all the time, and they're so obnoxious and so ridiculous. But okay, when you watch him, you don't get the he looks like an NFL athlete. Lomu, that's what an NFL athlete looks like. He's a very, very, very good athlete. He's always under control. Like he puts himself in the right position because of his footwork. Can kind of say the opposite with Jennings Dunker, who he's probably going to be flashy in the terms of, hey, he might pancake you here and there, and he's great with run blocking. But when a player like that struggles with the body control, it just doesn't look like a very flexible human. That's where I would have my concerns. What's Dane think about the mullet man?
Let's go see Dane's takeaway. Dunker has inconsistent reactionary skills on an island, but his square power, fierce hands, and aggressive mentality belong on an NFL field. He projects as a guard with starting potential and tackle flexibility. So I'm assuming that Jennings Dunker, if the 49ers were to add him to their repertoire, it would be in the second round. They don't have a third round.
Right.
And they'd be plugging him. I would think that pick would be plugging him into guard. And probably they wouldn't. I don't think they'd have a plan to make him like the heir apparent to Trent Williams. It sounds like his.
I want to say that he was a guard at the Senior Bowl. I might be off on that, but I think he was practicing some reps inside. So he's basically planning to do the same.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting take. I mean, he's a popular player mainly because of his hair, but I mean, Dane Brugler still has him as a third rounder. So it's not like he doesn't have any draft stock. All right. We've got Josh says there's not much the 49ers can do in the first round that would make me upset, to be honest. Haven't felt that way in a long time leading up to the draft. Just don't take a quarterback. When was the last time y'all felt this way? I mean, that's a good point.
He's wrong. I really don't think he's wrong.
And I've heard that sentiment come from a few other people, and the fact that the 49ers are in a position where it's not that they don't have any roster needs. If you asked me, I still think with Bryce Huff's retirement, an edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa is still like the most glaring need. But maybe it's at a point, especially with Joey Bosa still hanging around out there, maybe they're at a point where they just genuinely feel like they can go best player available, which is always what you should do. You know, it's hard for a lot of teams to do it, and I don't blame a team for. But here's what drafting for need gets you. Drafting for need, I mean, you start with the fact that they traded DeForest Buckner, which was dumb, and then they immediately drafted the best defensive tackle on their board, trying to replace the fact that they just traded DeForest Buckner. And look at that. Look how that worked out. You know what I mean? It's the only position that I think teams consistently draft for need on, and it kind of works out, is like offensive linemen. You know, you see people draft offensive linemen to replace an opening often, and that tends to work. Offensive linemen also, along with tight ends, I think, have the highest success rate in terms of just being drafted as players. But I don't know, the last time I felt this way about the 49ers, definitely wasn't 2017, 2018, 19 was I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a good question. I'd really have to go through and look at the draft classes to figure out, kind of re-spark what I was feeling like when that draft class approached, because I feel like the last couple 49ers draft classes have been the opposite, where I feel like they had some bad needs. I knew they were going to address them, and I felt like they had to get it right. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with what he's saying too, though, in the terms of like they can go a lot of different ways, and ultimately that pick could help the team. Like that pick can be a contributor early on, and that's really what you're looking for, right? Of course, you want to get a starter who's a plug and play at a premium position, but that's not always how it works. Especially that's why it's so wild to me to hear people say like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen at 21," or this is who they want at 27. Of course, they want that player, but they have no idea if that player is going to fall, which is why they have to prepare for so many different scenarios, so many different situations. And I don't know if that's going to happen. So I think they better be ready for anything. And which is how we get back to, hey, maybe it is a tight end. Maybe it's a safety. Like, who knows? So it can go a lot of ways. But back to the question, I think they're in a good spot to add a player who is productive. It's just about not reaching.
Right. If I'm looking at their draft history, I think maybe in 2021 when they decided to draft Trey Lance, I felt like before that decision was made, they had that rough season beforehand. They were sitting like, what'd they jump up from 13, 12? Where were they at when they jumped up
from
to
12 to 3?
Right. So and that was a draft where I don't remember being hyper focused on a position they needed. Once I started to, me and Crocker had a lot of conversations like, hey, if they really feel like they want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, they're never going to be, they don't plan on drafting this high anytime soon. So I wouldn't call it a luxury pick, but that was the last time where I was like, they could do this, or they could just stay here and draft kind of the player that falls to them. So that's kind of the last time where I felt like the 49ers had some flexibility. And then, the two drafts after that, you're doing them without those first round picks. So it's even more weird because you've got to let
they were
so much
so good those 2 years after. And in hindsight, right? It looked like, well, you should have hit on those picks. You should have never traded the first round picks. But they were still so good as a roster from top to bottom, which is how you end up drafting a kicker in the third round because you don't know where to go.
And that's what Kyle Shanahan said. It was just the worst excuse. Like, well, we didn't feel like we had any starting spots open, so we drafted a kicker. Like, no, then you just draft a freaking great player. Like,
just take another good player. That'll usually work out for you.
Well, and but the funny thing is, and this is a little back to the futurist, but if the 49ers don't trade up for Trey Lance, do they ever draft Brock Purdy?
No, of course not.
You know what I mean? Like everything happens for a reason. And I know we'd love to think of a world where they didn't use those picks for Trey Lance, but if they don't use those picks for Trey Lance, do they ever draft Brock Purdy? If Trey Lance isn't on the roster and playing to start that season, does Jimmy Garoppolo ever come back in? And if Jimmy Garoppolo never comes back in, why would Brock Purdy ever get a chance to take the field? It was just, I know it's cool to think of how much better the 49ers would be without those picks used on Trey Lance, but then who's your quarterback? Did they ever take Brock Purdy? We can make a movie out of that.
The team would just be so much different.
Right. Okay. So now we're jumping over to the other little thread we got going here. Matt Andrade. Has anyone talked about the 49ers doubling up on edge? It almost happened yesterday. And yesterday, I don't know if you caught that. You were doing a WrestleMania thing. But yesterday, John Chapman and I did a top 30 visits only mock draft.
Love that.
And because the 49ers consistently draft players from their top 30 visits list. So I just think it's a good exercise. But I think we took Malachi Lawrence in the first round. And we almost took, I think it was Romello Height in the second round. I don't think it was the fourth round picks, but I was like, man, would anybody just feel bad if the 49ers just got two edge rushers? Like you instantly kind of shore up that side opposite. You're either plugging in somebody behind Nick Bosa if Keon White, who got shot in the ankle, no one's remembering that, can't just immediately come in. You immediately just give yourself some depth, and maybe those two guys can rotate opposite Nick Bosa, or one guy's behind Nick Bosa. I wouldn't say we've talked a lot about it, but I certainly wouldn't be against it. It's a premium position.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. So think about what just happened, right? The season that they came off. Yes, Nick Bosa and Michael Williams were hurt. Well, to assume that they're both just going to be back to 100% off a serious knee injury from day one, like that feels like a little bit of a projection. That feels like you're playing with fire there. So are you going to rely, the team who could not get after the quarterback at all, one of the worst in the NFL by most statistics, are you going to rely on Keon White, the same Keon White who I think had a sack and a half last season? Probably not. Like, are you hoping that Cam Sample from the Bengals, who was available a couple weeks before the draft, is going to come in and make a difference? Like, I love Sam O's. To me, Sam Okwononu is a terrific role player, but that's not a guy you need to rely on an every down basis. So why not go out, get an edge rusher in the first round, and if another one falls to you in the second round, get another one. Imagine
if the 49ers got we'll just say Malachi Lawrence and Gabe Yakas. Like, you're like, okay, I'm cool with that.
The odds of both of them being bad just feels very, very low. So that's another reason why.
Hedge your bets, man.
Yeah, I don't mind doubling down at all. It makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Jeffrey K. Lyles, at Lyles Movie Files, another takeaway time regular. If you're still taking them, always saying if I was still taking questions. It felt like Seattle dominated the 49ers due to poor wide receiver separation and poor edge rush productivity. Which draft pairing would make you happiest? Oh, so is he asking which wide receiver, edge rusher draft pairing would make you the happiest?
That's what I took it
That's
as.
fun. That's fun.
Yeah, whether it's first, second, wide receiver, edge, flip flop, however you want to go. That is a really good question. So it would have to involve.
I do think there's a good chance those are their first two picks, but it could go anywhere.
Would agree. I don't know. So to me, I think if you're hoping that Denzel, I think Boston is going to go a little bit higher. I just feel like in a draft where you have enough questions about enough players at enough positions, wide receivers being a premium position in today's NFL, Denzel Boston might not have like a perceived high ceiling. I think he's going to be very good, but I don't know if he's going to last. Like, why would that player last to 27 in this draft? So I think I'm not expecting him to be there. Not sure the 49ers are either. So maybe that narrows it down to like a pass rusher in the first round. Who would that be? I do not know. So in a dream world, it's Keldrick Falk and Chris Bell, but I don't think it's going to work out like that.
He just gas.
If Falk falls and you can get Bell in the second round, like that's about as good as you can ask for. But let's say Boston falls, and now you can go with Boston in the first and come back with like a Gabe Akis or a Danny Dennis Sutton in the second. You're going to be in a good position moving forward, I feel like. So that's where I would go. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I need to say Denzel Baston from now on. I think that I need Denzel Baston. I'll go the other way. Let's say, I don't think he's going to make it there. I understand he's a little older and he has some injury history, but like if Akeem Mesidor fell to the 49ers, like that dude is like, again, he's old, but he is like, to me, he might be the most pro ready pass rusher in this entire like first round crop. Like the dude already has such a well-rounded game. He's got plenty of pass rush moves. He's decent against the run. Like I can go with him. Like, but there's a lot of guys that could plug in here. Akeem Mesidor, Cassius Howell, who I like. Keldrick Falk, I would agree with that. Let's say that one of them fell, and then like second round, it's gonna be tough. Jeremy Bernard, I don't think makes it there. I like him a lot. I don't think he makes it down to the 49ers out of Alabama. Just a really well-rounded receiver. We've already talked about Chris Bell. Deshaun Stribling, I think that his draft stock has taken him pretty close to 58 territory. I like Elijah Surratt, I think, a lot more than most people. The dude scored 15 touchdowns last year. I know you're saying ideal pairing. So you went with Denzel Boston. Who was yours? Denzel Boston and
I said Denzel Boston
Keldrick Falk
and Gabe Akis. Okay.
You went Keldrick Falk and
Chris Bell, which
No. And then you went Denzel Boston and Gabe Akis.
Yes.
Okay. I'll go. Yeah. All right. I'll go. I'll keep it a little more on the realistic side. I'll go Cassius Howell and Jeremy Bernard.
So whoever the edge rusher is, and honestly, you could say the same for the wide receiver walking into a Kyle Shanahan offense with all of the players that we talked about already, but defensive line, you're being dropped in there with Osa Odighizuwa, who not sure how – I don't know that 49ers fans are familiar with how good of a player, how productive of a player he will be. Like, he's going to be such a giant upgrade from what they've had at that position. So you have Osa, you have Bosa, you have Michael Williams coming back. You're going to be the fourth rusher, basically. So you're going to have so many one-on-one opportunities. So even if it's like players that we're talking about that either you or I are lower on, how do you not walk into a situation and just be productive? Like, they would really have to whiff on edge and wide receiver in my mind. So we'll see. But again, like even Mesidor, who 6-year senior, I don't know if I feel like he was a little bit of a Ruben Bain merchant. Okay, now he gets to be a Nick Bosa merchant. So they're going to be walking into as ideal of a situation as you could be.
Okay, I think we're not on our last one. Technically, there's one more here, but it's a big, giant mock draft. So we'll kind of read through his picks just to give him his flowers. But Owen Delbon, give me Jonah Coleman in the fourth. Thank you very little. Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman. He's a running back, right?
Yeah, that's the running. That's what I said.
Running back.
I said as one of the guys that I think that the 49ers should grab, Emmett Johnson and Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman, it looks like he's 5'5", 230.
He looks real strong. 5'8" and 5. He's 5'8", 220 pounds at 5'8".
He is such a fun player to watch. Like, legitimately, once a game, he's bouncing off and he's creating a big run. In the passing game, he'll, like, I don't want to say outrun somebody, but figure out how to get 30 yards down the field. So he's either fast enough or agile enough to make a difference. That's for sure. I think he's going to be a quality pro.
Now, let me see where the old Dade has him. He has him as his running back 6, fifth round projection. The NFL draft profile had him as a 4th rounder. Dane said Coleman isn't overly explosive and his lack of juice is a concern, but he is an instinctive, competitive ball carrier who can absorb and bounce off tacklers. He is an inside runner with value on passing downs, both as a receiver and a blocker. That's a nice little skill set right there, And Kyle Shanahan doesn't. He did have Raheem. Shout out to my boy Raheem. But Kyle Shanahan never really seems totally concerned about the knockout speed more than he does kind of like the vision, especially if he's running outside zone stuff. Like, he wants his guys to be able to see it, be able to see the cutback, be able to see the way things progress. It's just, I don't know. He's had some speed rushers, but even when he was Christian McCaffrey is definitely no longer that. Even when he was with the Falcons, who was his 2 running backs in the Falcons? Tevin Coleman and who was the other one?
Devonta Freeman.
Yeah, neither of them were like speedsters. They were just this awesome complement of good running. So I don't know. I think that Kyle Shanahan would consider a guy like that, even if he lacks like a top end gear.
So Coleman could fly, and that's why I think that's kind of why Kyle brought him over. But to be clear, Devonta was like the guy, and Devonta was not fast at all. And he still had big gains, like explosive runs. So I think that's important to point out. Like, just because you don't run fast on the stopwatch does not mean you're not capable of breaking off a big play.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman ran a 4.39 at his pro day.
No,
he was fast. He just wasn't fast by the time he brought him back to the 49ers.
Right. Caught him at a bad time.
Right. That's all right. And here we go. We got Sogras coming in at the very last second. He says, and another takeaway time regular, he says, this is the 10th draft of this regime. I think we have a decent sample. So what are your favorite and least favorite draft tendencies of this regime? Do they favor certain types of players that you like, hate at certain positions, don't swing enough at certain positions? Ooh, man, that's like a podcast in and of itself.
Yeah, right. To narrow this down in like an idea, to build your team through the trenches, which the 49ers do. Defensive line. Lynch said, we've done this for 10 years the other day at his presser. So I think that, right, you identify what wins in football, and they've gotten away from it a little bit in the past couple seasons, but earlier when they got good, 2019, and for like 5-6 years after that, they just were big up front on the defensive line, and they came at you in waves, which again, doubling down on edge rusher, come at teams in waves. That's when the 49ers were at their best. I think that was a really good job, or that thought process was very, very good. I do think, though, in the same breath, they tend to just zoom in too much on their needs, right? And that has gotten them in trouble a little too often, which I feel like at 27, especially this season, they can get away from that. And you don't have to take a wide receiver if that wide receiver you're not high on. Just take the next best player, right? Just take an offensive lineman who maybe you have like a high second round grade on. Maybe you feel like he's a little, I don't want to say out of reach right now, but I would rather take LG2 than WR6. So I think that's where the 49ers have been a little off in terms of just their draft strategy, draft process. But overall, I really don't think, even honestly, the Trey Lance trade looks awful in hindsight. Everybody dogs him, everybody clowns him. But in hindsight, they had a statue at quarterback who didn't have a very good arm, and they weren't able to do a lot offensively because of that. So what do? You want to zigzag. They went to get who they thought, high-end athlete, bazooka of an arm, and he was going to be able to be a playmaker and get them out of situations. That ended up being Brock Purdy in a way. Obviously, he doesn't have a bazooka arm, but he's a playmaker, very good, is able to run out of sacks, just take their offense to another level. So in hindsight, though, the idea to move up for a quarterback after what you had been through, even despite your success, was a very good trade. So I don't like the idea of dogging them too much because it didn't work out. Of course, like they didn't have a plan after the fact, but leading up to the draft, I thought it made a lot of sense. So I would say for the most part, they are sound when it comes to draft strategy, draft process. What do you think?
Biggest things to me is I don't know if they think they're smarter than everybody else, getting too cute. They've drafted kickers, they've drafted punters, kicker in the 3rd round, punter in the 4th round. They've reached for a ton of players. And look, I don't think I even tweeted this. I don't mind if the 49ers draft against this consensus board. That has nothing to do with teams. Those rankings aren't coming from inside. Right. And they're created by draft analysts. And a lot of those draft analysts are really good at what they do. They're created from rankings by guys like Dane Brugler, by guys like Daniel Jeremiah, and some other guys out there. But those consensus rankings do tend to hold up pretty well. They hold up like surprisingly well. Like if it's kind of like when Daniel Jeremiah says, 149 of my top 150 players got drafted. Okay, so he's got a pretty good idea of who's supposed to be getting drafted or not. And it feels like the 49ers fly in the face of consensus rankings maybe a little too often. And again, I'm not trying to give those rankings any more credit than they're due because those are created by like you said, they're created by us. A lot of the people that get a place in those rankings aren't necessarily guys you'd want to listen to begin with, but it kind of, I don't know, it evens out. It self-corrects, and it's no coincidence that this huge list of picks that the 49ers have reached the most on, being the NFL team that reaches the most against the consensus draft, almost none of them have even remotely worked out.
Right. And those are all in the same area of the draft too, which is another area to push back, right? Whether it's 3rd, 4th, like those picks have historically mostly 3rd, save that linebacker one, have not worked out for the team. So I think that is another good way, or another area where you'd highlight and push back. But again, man, so many you could do that with a lot of teams as well. We're like, damn, why did you take him? What were you thinking? But swing's a swing. So a lot of the 2nd and 3rd round picks too ended up being Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams. So like you're a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
Well, I mean, you and I went through and did that really, really, really detailed draft breakdown where we talked about the hits. And other than the first round, unfortunately, is their worst round success-wise. And every other round other than that, even the dreaded 3rd round, was pretty close to the league average as far as successes and misses goes. I just think
Ty Davis prices out there for a lot of teams.
I know. I just think that maybe people have a slightly skewed idea of what really happens in the draft. They of course you remember all these picks that you wanted the 49ers to take that ended up being hits, but the players that didn't work out for all these teams just kind of fall to the wayside. Nobody focuses on them, but it happens all the time. So it's just an interesting dynamic. Once you start to research how often picks work out, you realize you're like, whoa, maybe the 49ers aren't so bad. I mean, if you want to give yourself a glass half full approach, go look at what the 49ers have done in the 5th round. Might be the best 5th round team in the NFL by like a long ways. But okay, last one's from Mike Jolly. He just said, here's my mock. I disagree with some of the grades they gave me though. He did some trades.
Love that. I'm right. You're wrong.
Well, and mock draft simulator grades can be kind of silly, but it's essentially you can get an A+ if you just constantly take the best player available on their board. So all you got to do is take the top player and you'll get an A+. So don't worry about the grades. But his first pick was Malachi Lawrence. Talked about that. Don't mind it. It seems a little rich, but I mean, that's realistically where he is right now. 58. So Emmanuel Pregnon. Man, if Emmanuel Pregnon made it all the way down to 58, that would be interesting. 80. So he did a little bit of a trade back. I don't want to go into the details. Jalen Kilgore, safety out of South Carolina. 94. Skylar Bell, wide receiver, UConn. I like Skylar Bell. Did you like Skylar Bell?
Yeah, especially in that range. Like that's a great spot for Bell.
133 offensive center Trey Zune III. 138 defensive tackle Demonte Capehart. It's a cool name. 139 wide receiver Kendrick Law. 167, tight end Daquan Wright, and 250, punter Brett Thorson. He
Well, now
drafted.
you know why your grade was what your grade was.
They gave him a B- for drafting the punter, but
Too high.
not bad. I mean, if the 49ers could really trade back that much and garner that many picks, I'd be impressed. I just do not. On that note, it's a good topic. I just do not see the 49ers being able to trade back. I do not see the 49ers, and really most teams, being able to do too much trading back. I don't see this as a draft where people are going to want to trade up. The blue chippers are towards the top of the first. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to ask who are they trading up for,
Right?
And if they're trading up for a prospect, 49ers would probably want that player. So it's going to be tough to maneuver around, I think.
Yeah, it does feel that way. It does feel like it's going to be tough. And every year, everybody just says, "Oh, just trade back. Oh, just trade back. Just trade back. Just trade." It takes two. There's no button that's sitting in front of them in the war room that says trade back, and some other poor team that's sitting back at 35 is just forced to come up and pick at 27. It doesn't work that way. Somebody's going to want to come up and get somebody. Now, do the Cardinals start to kind of worry that maybe the Jets like Ty Simpson too, and they're worried about the Jets trading up into one of those late round picks? And so they're like, "Oh, let's get in there and let's go up there. Let's go to 27 with the 49ers, see if they'll trade up with us," which the 49ers should do. Just charge them a little more. Who cares if they're in your division, especially if you're not afraid of Ty Simpson. But maybe there's some reason with that. Seems like literally the only player. Maybe somebody really likes one of those defensive linemen that are supposed to kind of fall down the draft, something like that. But just doesn't feel like a draft where somebody's going to be trading up. And I think that's it. I think I got everybody. I think that was everybody on those two tweets. I'm going to do one last double check just to make sure I haven't missed anybody. Got all those. Sawgrass coming in at the last second. Well done, my friend. You were here. Doesn't matter if you were late. You were here. I think that's it. Okay, so again, this was a test stream. This was us making sure the YouTube worked for all intents and purposes. The timer's moving. It looked like it worked. If it did work, I'll just leave it on the channel. But if you are listening to this on the podcast airwaves, go to YouTube and don't search Striking Gold Podcast, because there's a good chance it's going to bring up Eric Crocker's old channel that he made for us. Type in at the Striking Gold Podcast, like you were searching a Twitter handle, at the at symbol, and then the Striking Gold Podcast, and that will be ours. It probably will not have a lot of subscribers yet. That's okay. We'll get that up. But again, we will be back on here in 2 days, reacting to the 49ers first round pick in that moment.
No more guessing, no more hypotheticals. We can talk about a tangible player that we don't have to, make like. It's time.
It's time. It is. And what's funny too is I think it was today. I was doing a mock draft simulator, and I just kind of really slowly clicked out of it. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready.
Yeah.
I think I'm good. I think I'm good now. I think I'm ready for the draft. So again, at the Striking Gold Podcast on YouTube, that is our new YouTube channel. You can check out this stream if you want to. It should be hanging out there in the VODs. But if not, we will be back on here Thursday live. The podcast will still continue. Obviously, these will all be taken and turned into podcast form. So if you're just an audio person, fret not. This will be there, and our podcast will still always be there. But you can also find us on YouTube now, which is exciting. KP, any closing thoughts? We good?
Muted once more. Gonna have to get used to that. No, I am good. I am ready to talk about whoever. I'm ready to talk about the draft.
Real.
I want to see where these players go. I want to stop doing these hypotheticals.
I know. I agree. Tell your daughter to get a K-pop Demon Hunters poster.
What do we got? No.
Right there. Like just figure out where your two sides are and put one on either side. You can do the Soulja Boys on one side and
probably be a Tate McRae.
That's right. That's a real name. That is a real name.
It is.
Okay, everybody. I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be great. But and I'm excited for the fact that the draft is here. We got 2 days. We'll be back on here. As always, if you're on iTunes, if you're on Spotify and you haven't done it already, leave us a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. If you stumble upon this video Like, subscribe, even drop a comment after the fact if you want to. Greatly appreciate it. I have to learn to say all those YouTube things now, the likes and things. But hey, you already know what it is. For another episode, I'm Rob. That's KP. This is Striking Gold, and we are signing out.